Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
So good, so good, so good.
Get ready, cause Clear the Rack is on at your Nordstrom Rack store. Now through Monday, find incredible deals on Wear Now styles. On sale for even less at Nordstrom Rack. Take an extra 25% off red tag clearance throughout the store from brands like Free People, Steve Madden, Vince, and more. All sales final. The best stuff goes fast. So shop this sale at Nordstrom Rack today. Please see NordstromRack.com or ask a store associate for details.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. We're having a wonderful time on a Saturday afternoon. I hope you're having a great Mother's Day weekend. We are going to be taking your calls in about 10 minutes. And I'm taking calls mostly from the ladies today, if that's okay with you, gentlemen, because I want to hear from the women about two issues. One is, what is your favorite story about your own mother? And we heard from the great Ann Moore, my wife, about her story, which I loved. But I want to hear that if you have a great story about something your mother did that you'll never forget, this is a time to celebrate that. And second, almost more importantly, why is it that women are not having children the way they were 50 years ago? I mentioned earlier, I have four brothers and sisters. And so we're a family of seven, including my parents. And so you don't see that kind of thing anymore. What do we have to do to persuade women, couples to get married and then to have kids and be fruitful and multiply? Because if that doesn't happen, I think we're going to have it's an economic and cultural issue. So if you'd like to join that conversation, ladies, we would love to hear from you, old or young. And I'd love to hear from some of the younger ladies about why you think it is that the women your age cohort are not having children. I don't get it. I wish we could have more children. I have three sons. My wife has two. So we have five sons in our family, and we love it. We love having a big family. Anyway, my next guest is, and that, by the way, just to remind you, the call-in number, if you'd like to join, 1-800-848-9222 is the More Money Hotline. 1-800-848-9222 or 1-800-848-WABC. In the meantime, I wanted to introduce to you Bryan Dimitrovich, who's a longtime friend. He's one of the top economic scholars in the country. He works very closely with someone who's been a frequent guest on the show, Arthur Laffer, probably the most famous economist in the world today. And Bryan and Arthur Laffer have written a great, great, great book called Taxes Have Consequences. And I had to get Bryan on this afternoon because we have so many Republicans now talking about raising tax rates. And Bryan's book with Arthur proves definitively that every single time we've tried to raise tax rates, bad things have happened to the economy. The rich don't end up paying more taxes. They find tax accountants and ways to avoid the tax. So, Bryan, you're the world's expert on this. Appreciate you joining this afternoon.
I'm happy to be here, Steve, but in a certain way, I wish it were under better circumstances.
Yeah, well, I almost dropped out of my chair when I heard that the Republicans were talking about raising tax rates. So tell us about your book with Art Laffer called Taxes Have Consequences. And specifically, can you go through some of the episodes like under Herbert Hoover and under Franklin Roosevelt and under Nixon and Carter? Am I right that every time we've raised tax rates, bad things have happened?
Well, you're more than right, Steve, and I'm going to go straight for the Herbert Hoover example. So in our book, Art Laffer, Jeannie Sinkfeld, and I wrote Taxes Have Consequences. The subtitle tells you what it is, an income tax history of the United States. So in the 1920s, we had a brand new income tax. There had never been an income tax of any duration before the 16th Amendment to the Constitution in 1913. And suddenly the top rate of the income tax was 73%.
By the way, can I just interrupt you 1 second, Bryan? Because this is an important point you're making. The first income tax rate, if I remember correctly, was 7%. And I seem to recall from that debate that was had, because it's very controversial, a lot of the advocates, the proponents of the income tax said, don't worry, it will never go over 10%. And then 5 years later, it was, what rate was it?
Well, it was 77% in 1918, 7 times 77, as the Bible says. Yeah, 77%. I mean, it just immediately got completely out of hand, and it was still at 73% in 1921, fully in peace. World War I's in the rear view by years, and the tax rate is 73%. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So what happened was that Andrew Mellon came in as Secretary of the Treasury under 3 presidents, It was said, 3 presidents served under him, Warren Harding, Calvin Coolidge, and Herbert Hoover. He cut that tax rate down, kept cutting it, and he took it down to 56 to 46 to 25 for the last 5 years of the 20s.
So wait, it went from hold on. So it went from 70% to 25%?
73 to 70 to 25. Right. So
what,
essentially,
then what happened? What happened to the revenues?
Well, we had a budget surplus with the greatest debt in the history of the country for 11 straight years, from 1920 to 1930. The World War I debt was triple the Civil War debt, easily the biggest debt on any criteria the United States had ever had.
So hold on, Brian, because this is so important. I want to emphasize this point to our listeners. So we took what Brian is telling us is the rate went from 73, whatever the rate was, down to 25%. So that's a gigantic reduction in the tax rate, and the federal revenues went up, and we actually had a budget surplus, right?
That's right, and the budget had to handle payments on debt and principal of the biggest debt the United States had ever had by orders of magnitude. So it's not just as this is some ordinary budget. Every single year for 11 straight years, 1920 to 1930, as Mellon executed this 2/3 reduction in the top rate of the income tax, was a budget surplus. Budget surplus means not only are you servicing that debt, you're retiring it beyond the normal schedule of servicing. So economy, of course, I don't need to tell you.
Okay, so no, this is good. So I just want to make sure we get this all in. And so then we have a reduction. Then Hoover comes in and he raises the tax.
Yeah, the first thing that happens, Hoover comes in, and Mellon and Hoover had not gotten along in Coolidge's cabinet. Hoover had been Secretary of Commerce. Hoover becomes president in 1929. Mellon wants to keep cutting tax rates. We're running 10 years of surpluses. I mean, it's time to cut rates again. And Hoover says, we're not doing it again. And the only compromise he gives, I will give an ex post facto 1% reduction off taxes paid for 1929. So he says we're only going to do it retroactively from now on. And 25% is going to be the floor, and we're only going to explore increases after that. Well, that's all the economy needed to hear. This stuff about the gold standard caused the Great Depression. How about Herbert Hoover's tax policy in 1929? Right. That was the signal to get out of the American economy.
And so in the Depression,
top tax rate, yes, 63%.
In the Depression, then you had Hoover then actually raised the tax rate, right?
Yeah, to 63. So January 1st, 1932, he took it up 150%.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And he had already telegraphed that in 1929. He said, this is what I'm going to be doing. No rational investor is going to keep committing to the American economy. There's the Great Depression in whole.
Your snacking routine can get a little dull. Time for a Light and Fit remix. Like a crunchy storm of graham cookies, caramel pearls, and dark chocolate, showering down into a smooth, creamy yogurt. Enjoy 3 Light and Fit remix varieties with craveable flavors and up to 120 calories and 10 grams of protein per 4.5-ounce serving. See remixyogurt.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Amazing. And it was large part because of the Smoot-Hawley tariff, and then the massively raising the tax rates.
Yeah, I mean, the Smoot-Hawley tariff happened at the end of the fiscal year in June 1930, and it swelled receipts because the tariff was coming on June 17th, and so everyone was shoving in goods to the United States in the beginning of June and in May 1930. So federal revenues go way up at the end of the fiscal 1930, and Herbert Hoover's like, see, my tariff policy is great. Because when you establish one, right before you get a ton of tariff revenue. And then fiscal 1931 was murderous. And it was murderous. Raise income tax rates.
And then Hoover loses a massive election to FDR. And then what is Franklin?
Steve, I gotta take issue with that, I have to say. And I wrote about this in Forbes this morning.
Okay.
I don't know how badly Herbert Hoover actually lost that election, because I can think of an incumbent who actually did worse in his reelection. George H.W. Bush got less of the percentage of the popular vote in 1992 than Herbert Hoover.
Oh, that's right, because we had three candidates in 1992.
That's what happens when you raise the marginal rate of income tax. You have to rewrite the record book about how badly you lose.
Well, Brian, we've got just 1 minute left, so you then just bring us really quickly. So Richard Nixon and then Carter raised taxes, right? And then we had a lousy economy in the 70s.
Yeah, Lyndon Johnson, first of all, started a 10% income tax surcharge on the Kennedy tax rates, which was really dumb. So that started the 16-year bear market in stocks. Nixon kept the surcharge, raised the capital gains rate by 10 points, imposed the alternative minimum tax.
Oh, my God.
Carter was dealt a bad hand. He did sign the capital gains tax reduction in 1978 against his will.
Yeah.
And then we needed real leadership, and we got it.
So the lesson here, folks, that's Bryan Dimitrovich. Get his book, Taxes Have Consequences. The co-author of that is the great Arthur Laffer. It tells this whole story. But the bottom line is raising tax rates has negative effects. It blows up the economy. Let's not do that again. Bryan, thanks for joining.